If there's one thing you can count on the internet to do, it's to overreact.
Oh my god, the DCU, I've lost all faith after that Peacemaker Season 2 finale, oh no.
So Peacemaker Season 2 just finished and we won't be getting another DCU project until either Supergirl, Lanterns, or those crypto shorts. Which to me is fine because we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to use this video to share my thoughts on the overall direction of the DCU so far and its upcoming projects. So you know, just more of a chill video. First up, we got Peacemaker Season 2. Before we get started, if you've been keeping up with my weekly episode discussions, this might be a retread of my thoughts. And of course, spoilers for Peacemaker Season 2 for the rest of the video, because the Peacemaker Season 2 finale basically tells us the central premise of the first DCU chapter. So the Peacemaker Season 2 finale was not good. And no, I'm not gonna look back in a week and be like, wow, you know what, that was actually really good. Cause guess what? It's been more than a week. Let's cover some of the gotchas I've seen from people all over the internet trying to defend this finale, and I'll try to explain why none of them make any sense. And if you enjoyed the finale, that's fine, okay? These are just my thoughts. So the first line of defense I've heard yelled from the rooftops is that episode 7 was the true finale and episode 8 was just an epilogue / setting up the next season. I've even seen some people be like, well, you've clearly never seen a HBO show before. Game of Thrones would have its climax in episode 9 of its season, then have its fallout / repercussions in episode 10, okay? Dumbass. The revisionist history is going absolutely mental with these guys. First, no one after watching episode 7 was like, wow, that was basically the finale. What could they possibly do in the next episode? No, we all agreed that it was a really good episode and it got us really excited for what would come in the finale. So to look back now and be like, yeah, you know what, that episode 7, that really did feel like the climax of the season, worth an entire season's worth of plot lines wrapped up in that episode. Yeah, I'm definitely not changing my mind now after watching the episode that came out after. I've also seen some people say, how could you expect Earth X and Earth X Keith to come back in the final episode? That's on you. Is it on me, or is it on the fact that we spent a majority of the season physically exploring that world and how that world represents a huge part of Peacemaker's psyche and character arc? Also, you don't show Keith being all angry and alive, being wheeled in the hospital, and not expect him to have his story wrapped up by the end of the season, let alone not appear in the final episode at all. And listen, I like Peacemaker Season 1, I thought this season was alright, but let's hold our horses on comparing it to fucking Game of Thrones. The only thing they have in common is fumbling the ending. Okay, the second line of defense I've seen online. The finale was character focused, and to expect any action at all was you shooting yourself in the foot. You know what? Fair enough. It's not like the whole show is about a costume vigilante who goes around killing people with impeccable weapon usage and hand-to-hand combat. Okay, but seriously, I don't think action was a necessity in the finale, but I don't really blame people who wanted some, because my god, by the end, you really feel the brunt of just speeches and pep talks. The thing about focusing on characters is that these characters have to grow and change through their own decisions, where their decisions impact the story. Like, what exactly did Ads go through to circle back to her ex to finalize their breakup? A talk from Judo Master? Okay. She's like, I realized that my passion is all the spy shit and not this dream pet store or whatever the fuck. And I'm sitting here like, I thought they already had this exact breakup for the exact same reason at the beginning of the season. And Chris suddenly becoming a happy and fulfilled person after Harcourt says that their kiss meant a lot to her. What? I feel like after everything we've seen of his mental turmoil throughout the entire season, there should have been a better resolution to his character arc than that one confession. Oh wait, no, there was a pep talk. Again. Like, he didn't actively do anything of his own accord to recover from his lowest point, and his lowest point we literally see at the beginning of the finale. And if a character's not making decisions on their own to develop as a character, then that makes for an inactive protagonist, and that makes for usually a boring story. At least we got to experience Harcourt's perception of Chris change when they escape Earth X, and even then, it doesn't really tie up the whole toxic masculinity thing that they've been hammering down throughout the entire season for it. It feels like every character moment or reconciliation was unearned or just didn't go deep enough. That was my main problem. No, it wasn't action or cameos or whatever. Also, by the way, I didn't know the whole cameo thing was such a huge deal online. Like, I did see some people speculate that Blue Beetle or Superman were gonna appear, but these expectations for these cameos were through the fucking roof apparently. And this time, in a rare instance, I don't blame the chronically online fans who should probably get a life, because here are some quotes I found. In referring to the finale, Gunn said, "I can guarantee it's the craziest, wildest, most insane and wonderful episode of Peacemaker we've ever ever produced. I am the one who's keeping the 3 episodes away from everybody because there are too many surprises in those last 3 episodes, especially 6 and 8. They are just crazy, my favorite things I've ever done of anything. We have some big stars from the DC universe that are gonna be near the end of the season. I really don't want what's in those last 3 episodes to be spoiled, and so I'm keeping them close to the chest. I won't even let my publicist see them. That's the God's honest truth. I will also say 6 and 8 may be my favorite things I've done, like of all time. It's like some of my favorite stuff ever. Oh no. And that really sucks because from what I can tell, James Gunn, he is super passionate about the DCU and he seems like a really nice guy as well. But just looking at these quotes, oh boy. I mean, I assume from the big stars quote he was referring to Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, not fucking Foxy Shazam. And the fact that he kept pointing out episode 6 and 8 as his favorites and not episode 7, which is the one everyone loved, that's pretty bizarre, right? I think anyone who's a creator or YouTuber or whatever can relate to people not loving what you thought was gonna be an incredible banger and something that you put so much effort into. So I really do sympathize with them, especially with a production of this scale. My mental health could never. Okay, the third line of defense I've seen from people online was that this episode was actually a really seamless segue to set up the storylines of the DCU. Yeah, it's as seamless as a swear word's being thrown into every single line of dialogue in Peacemaker Season 2.
Great fucking moment. Shit, Ginger Cool. Fuck you too. Oh shit. Fucking finger. I don't give a shit.
When the fuck?
Fucking psychopath.
He's the dumbest cunt who's ever existed.
Shut the fuck up!
The thing is, when you have a cast of characters who you've seen interact and grow together in a single show, it feels a bit cheated to not resolve their stories in that same show. Like, we just get thrown into the deep end of Salvation's origin here, which will apparently be a big part of the DCU and Man of Tomorrow, but I would really love for these DCU projects to stand on their own as promised. And yes, James Gunn has said that people who watch Man of Tomorrow won't have to watch Peacemaker Season 2 to understand what Salvation is, but I'm not really talking about Man of Tomorrow when I say that I want DCU projects to stand on their own. I'm talking about Peacemaker Season 2! The fact that James Gunn confirmed that there weren't any current plans for Peacemaker Season 3 had me pretty concerned halfway throughout the finale, and thus those concerns became realized. Not to beat a dead horse, but 2 full concert performances on the same set with a crowd that's way too young for that kind of music. What are we doing here? And don't even get me started on that really long slow motion checkmate startup office montage. From the way that the gang was smiling and laughing and shit, I thought this was like some sort of HR workplace culture video.
What is your perfect workplace? A positive workplace might have different details.
Okay, so let's address one of the several elephants in the room, and that is Rick Flag Sr. The main criticism is his turn to a mustache-twirling villain who laughs while agents under his command are dying was a bit too sudden, and that this salvation plan kinda came out of nowhere compared to the rest of the season. First counterpoint I've seen online is that Flag's character was actually building to this the whole time, from Creature Commandos to Superman to this, and if you don't realize that, you're a dumbass and you haven't been paying attention. I feel like the mental gymnastics that people are doing for this is unreal. Like, oh, you know Clayface, he hurt Flag's back, and Clayface is a metahuman, you know? And you know Hawkgirl, she killed a national leader and she's a metahuman, you know? Can't you see why he hates metas? Let me simplify this. The Flag character we see in Peacemaker Season 2 episodes 1 to 7 is not the same as the one we see in episode 8, and that's all that matters when we're talking about Peacemaker Season 2. The majority of his character change wasn't equally distributed throughout the entire season. Most of it comes between 7 and 8, and that just doesn't really make for good TV for me. We could have at least seen Flag laugh with the Lex goons and walk out of the room and immediately drop a smile, but nope, he has just changed that quick. Second counterpoint I've seen, he's obviously been switched with Clayface. Okay, sweet. So what you're saying is that his characterization was so bad in that episode that the only way for it to make sense was that he was replaced with an entirely different character in secret. You're doing a very good job defending the writing here. And if he is Clayface or mind controlled or whatever, it still sucks that we would see this resolved in a different DCU project and leave the Rick Flag Sr. character from Peacemaker Season 2 in the dirt. On a related note, Peacemaker's now stuck in Salvation, so he's gonna appear next in God knows where, and his conflict with Rick Flag Sr. is also gonna be resolved in God knows where. I don't care what people say, this Salvation plot really came out of nowhere compared to the rest of the season. If you look at the whole interdimensional prison thing, I guess we did see that in Superman, but there's no going back. I can't change anything, you can't change anything, so let's just accept the fact that Salvation will be a big aspect of the DCU going forward, tying everything together. So first, let me address it. Is the DCU as doomed as what some very loud people would say? No. What? The gun is jammed! The gun is jammed! James Gunn's streak as a creator in the superhero genre is one of the best we've ever seen. This is pure speculation, so take this with a truckload of salt, but I think that James Gunn hasn't really adjusted to the editing stage of his own work since becoming top dog. Because I think with other projects, there'll be lots of eyes on what he writes and does, and therefore more feedback and edits. But now that he's so busy writing, directing, and producing, I just feel like he could benefit for some external oversight / feedback on his own work. Otherwise, he could just thumbs up everything he does. He probably doesn't. He probably does have a few people check his work, but you know what I mean. Like at least someone to let him know of some bangers post 2015, or at least some hip hop and R&B, you know? Anyway, for future projects like Man of Tomorrow, I really do hope that he had more time to edit and get more feedback from people, if that even is the problem. Again, I am just speculating. So what are my thoughts on the DCU's overall direction post Peacemaker Season 2? We have metahumans versus corporations versus the US government. I don't mind it. I know it's not what everyone was expecting. It's not fucking Darkseid or Brainiac or whatever, but I think this has potential to be a really easy layup to get the Justice League to form. A lot of people have already brought this up, but it really reminds me of the Justice League vs. Cadmus arc from Justice League Unlimited, which was really great. Here's my thinking, right? If they really do take inspiration from the New Frontier, there's only one way this can really go. So, many of the metahumans, especially the heroes, are going to be trapped in Salvation. Then a big threat will arrive and the US government will fail, then the corporate goons will fail, and they'll turn to the independent heroes trapped in Salvation, and they'll be like, oh my god, you guys are our last hope, please help us. So there's a new league of heroes who are completely independent from governments and corporations and all that bullshit, and they are the Justice League, and they represent saving people solely for the sake of saving people and being good, and they save the world. Like I said before, it does kind of feel like a retread of the whole prison escape thing from Superman, especially if Superman gets put in Salvation and he escapes with a bunch of other heroes, but they might do something different. What do I know? I guess we'll find out more details in Lanterns. Like I said before, I'm not the most avid Green Lantern fan. I do plan on binging the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run soon, but for now, I'm a pretty basic guy. First, let's talk about the age of Hal Jordan and Sinestro. They're both past their primes. Let's just say that. I can imagine there would be some future DCU projects that are set in Hal and Sinestro's prime days, either recast or animated, but I can definitely see why Hal Jordan fans are pissed off. Like, all they got was Ryan Reynolds and a mixed bag of animated movies, and then DC was like, well, we fucking tried, we give up. I mean, even Guy Gardner's not exactly young, and imagine telling someone 10 years ago that Guy Gardner in his live action appearance would be played by a 54-year-old. They'd be like, what? The young hothead Green Lantern will be played by a 54-year-old? I grew up with Jon Stewart through the Justice League animated series, and I know a lot of Green Lantern fans hate that. They're like, oh my god, they're only using Jon Stewart because he was popular through the animated series. Hal Jordan is the better character. Whether or not that's true, having Jon Stewart also helps making the Justice League not the Caucasian League, and I don't know about you, but I don't want Cyborg in the Justice League again. Please keep him for Titans. Also, lots of people are speculating that Hal Jordan is gonna die by the end of season 1. Do I think that's gonna happen? I'm currently like 50-50 on it. He either gets corrupted by Parallax, obviously, and then Jon Stewart has to put him down by the end of the season, or he becomes some like planetary counselor on a very faraway planet. I don't really see Hal Jordan being part of the DCU's Justice League or even a Green Lantern on Earth at all, unless it's for some huge event. Okay, so the plot of Lanterns, let's talk about that. We know that they'll be investigating some sort of mystery and that the show will be largely Earth-based, but after the Peacemaker finale, I think that James Gunn has said that Salvation and Checkmate will have a role in Lanterns. Could it be that they're investigating missing heroes or aliens? Also, if the main conflict of Lanterns is to do with this overarching plot of Salvation in the DCU, kill me. Please just let me have a high quality HBO Green Lantern show without any of these fucking links to Salvation and shit. Like, can we just have a Green Lantern story? As someone who doesn't know much about Green Lantern, I would actually really appreciate that. And I might be alone when I say this, but I do not want to see Checkmate in Lanterns. If it's that specific team we saw at the end of Peacemaker, I feel like seeing them will take me out of the serious tone that they've been teasing so much for Lanterns. Like, can you imagine Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan pulling up to Checkmate to learn more about a metahuman, and Fleury starts talking about fucking bird blindness and titties? No thank you. Overall, I'm pretty excited for this series. Damon Lindelof is attached and I'm a big fucking fan of his work. I'm pretty sure Lanterns is gonna be Tom King's first writing credit for a TV or movie production, so congrats to him. I'm not the biggest fan of his work. I know a lot of people love his writing, but to me, like, I'm one of those people where his writing just doesn't gel with me for some reason. Chris Mundy, probably most well known for being the showrunner on Ozark, which I haven't seen, so I can't really comment. But man, I really hope they nail this. Green Lantern fans, they need the W. Based on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King, and like I said before, I'm one of those people who just doesn't really gel too hard with Tom King's work. Like, my brain just doesn't really click with it and just doesn't see what everyone gets so hyped about. I liked Woman of Tomorrow, but to me, the best part about it was the art. So anyway, pretty excited for this. Sydney's own Millie Alcock as Supergirl. It's still pretty wild to me that I know people who knew her growing up and stuff. What I'm trying to say is please invite me to the Australian premiere of Supergirl when it comes out. This movie has been recently compared to Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of being an intergalactic adventure, which shouldn't really surprise you one bit if you've read the book. My main concern for this movie might actually be the visual effects, because there are a lot of planets and a lot of aliens, and I was not the biggest fan of the CGI in Superman. I'm also really curious if Jason Momoa will play Lobo, like actually Lobo, or he'll just play Jason Momoa, because I kind of want to see him try separate his performance from Aquaman. Otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty keen for an actual self-contained story in the DCU. I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm gonna like this more than Superman. So this is a film I have super high hopes for. I know people shit on the fact that we're getting a Clayface movie before a Batman movie in this universe, but to me, I'm like, who cares? If this ends up being a dud, it may actually crush my soul. I think this movie will be the true test as to whether the DCU can stand on that promise of each project being able to be any genre and can just stand on its own completely independent. Like, there won't be any obligation to have some MCU quips, no, just completely independent with the director's vision. I also really want this movie to be something that anyone can watch, especially people who know jack shit about DC. I know some people are pissy about it for not having Batman, but if this movie's able to hit weapons level word of mouth, then that's a huge win for DC. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would like at least some reference to Batman because, you know, Clayface is a Batman villain, but unlike the Sony movies with Spider-Man, it's kind of reassuring to me that this movie is guaranteed to be set in a universe with Batman. Like, would it sound more appealing if Batman was the antagonist in this movie? Yes, of course, but I'm not gonna sit here and complain about shit that I can't change because it's happening. What are we gonna do? I just have high hopes. Do I have any concerns for this project? This might be a controversial opinion, don't worry, I get it, but I hope they don't feel obligated to refer to the greater DC universe. It could take me out of this movie just being an indie style horror movie that's for anyone, but that's really not a big deal. I'm more talking about references that, you know, feel out of place or feel forced in. My second concern is that this will be a male version of The Substance and a worse version of The Substance. I would really want them to swing for the fences and, you know, just have their own take on what it means to be a public face and how physical appearance is linked to mental health. They kind of touched on that in Batman the Animated Series, but I think they have an opportunity here for the wider audience to really just drive that in. And of course, I want to see a giant fucking clay monster by the end of the movie. Please do not pussy out of that. That might be my biggest concern of all. So last week, as part of my weekly video associated polls, I asked people when they would want to see Brainiac in the DCU, and two of my options were Man of Tomorrow and Superman 2. Man, the amount of comments I got about Man of Tomorrow is a Superman 2, what the fuck are you talking about? You're wrong! Bro, James Gunn said it himself, forgive me for trusting him over you. I'm pretty sure as of the moment, it's gonna be like how Batman v Superman was a sequel to Man of Steel, but it wasn't a Man of Steel 2. So in that case, I'm pretty excited to see Superman and Lex Luthor team up against whatever big threat they're up against. I'm pretty sure the villain's gonna be someone none of us expect. I think Brainiac is a bit too predictable, even though, you know, it will be cool to see him, but it just doesn't feel like James Gunn's style. I mean, from that script cover, looks like it's gonna be Brainiac, but I feel like Brainiac is a bit too early. I don't know, a lot of people are saying, oh, just have Brainiac be the villain of Man of Tomorrow and just bring him back continuously throughout the DCU. Like, what the fuck, we don't have to kill him off. But the thing is, once you see a villain get defeated and you see him pop up again, you can't really capture that same level of threat, you know, unless you completely change the character to be not a villain. Anyway, apparently Lex Luthor is going to be just as much of a main character as Superman, but I have a suspicion that he's going to be more of a main character than Superman. Really love Nicholas Hoult as Lex, but I definitely think there's more opportunity to explore his character and his range a bit more, and by that I mean hopefully not like the awful dialogue given to him in Peacemaker Season 2.
Meanwhile, I'm here in Belle Reve, listening to a bear-sized man with dragon skin, butt fucking a glowing twink with cartoon eyes in a cell beside me every night.
We all know Lex is gonna betray Superman by the end, how maybe he sends him to salvation, which again might be a bit repetitive because we literally did see Lex send Superman to a interdimensional prison in Superman. But the fact that we're getting this movie 2 years after Superman, that's fucking nuts. And even just that earns some brownie points for me. Unless it's shit, then I'm like, dude, you should have spent more time preparing. And as you can see, overall, I'm pretty hopeful for the DCU. I know some people might be surprised by that because I was pretty relentless in my discussions for the Peacemaker episodes, but you know, not everything's gonna be perfect. In my opinion, Creature Commandos was alright, Superman was good, Peacemaker Season 2 could have been better. And let's also remember that these DCU 2025 projects were all done by the same guy. 2026 is gonna be a bunch of creative voices and we're gonna see how that goes. I'm pretty certain that 2026 is gonna be the make or break year for the DCU because they're pretty much putting all their big ideas to the test. Focusing on the Superman family, low budget and different genres, television series, the overarching salvation plot, that's gonna be crazy. And then of course the year after that we have Man of Tomorrow and the Batman Part 2. We still don't know who the villain's gonna be for the Batman Part 2, but I did break down how we could make all of Batman's Rogues Gallery more realistic for the Reeves-verse movie. So if you haven't seen that, check that out if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to me ramble and stuff.
10, 1, 5 in the